At 6:42 a.m., a single metallic snap shattered the morning calm. My security chain split in two, echoing like a gunshot through the cul-de-sac. The HOA president, Bethany Wright, stood there with bolt cutters and smug authority, unaware that the Jeep she was stealing wasn't mine alone. It belonged to a police task force. My name's Marcus "Tank" Rodriguez, Army Reserve MP turned federal liaison. After years chasing traffickers through desert dust, I wanted quiet. When Grandma Rosa passed, she left me her house in Willow Creek Estates, a neighborhood so pristine it felt artificial. Every lawn identical, every smile rehearsed. On paper, paradise. In reality, rulebook purgatory. Grandma's porch still smelled like her tortillas and cinnamon candles. She taught me that real strength wasn't fists. It was patience and proof. "Mijo, fight the right fight," she'd say. I thought I was done fighting. Then came Bethany Kensington Wright. Bethany was 50-something, pearls and poison in equal measure. She drove a white Lexus, chaired the HOA, and carried a clipboard like a badge. Her husband, Carl, sat on the city council, meaning she believed she ruled the block by divine suburban right. 2 weeks after I moved in, a letter arrived. Violation notice number 104, unauthorized vehicle storage. My government-issued Jeep, matte gray, reinforced frame, sealed compartments. Apparently, didn't meet community aesthetics. I tried diplomacy, explained it was federal property, temporarily stationed while I transitioned to civilian duty. Bethany's smile stayed frozen. "Rules apply to everyone, Mr. Rodriguez. Even patriots." Neighbors whispered that she fined a Marine for parking a motorcycle overnight, cited a nurse for a flag too large, and once threatened a veteran over Christmas lights in February. I laughed it off until fines hit $50 a day. When deployment orders came for a 3-month training rotation, I left the Jeep secured behind a steel chain and padlock. My sister Maya, a middle school teacher, promised to check the mail and water the garden. "Don't worry," she said. "It's just a neighborhood, not a war zone." She was wrong. 3 weeks into training, a video call from Maya lit my screen. Her eyes were red. "Tank, she's threatening to tow your Jeep." I stepped outside the barracks, heat stinging my face. "What happened?" She left another notice. Said, "Military credentials don't exempt lawbreakers." I showed your orders. She laughed. Tank. The HOA board meeting that night turned into public humiliation. Bethany announced, "Our community image matters. Government vehicles intimidate potential buyers." Maya recorded the whole thing. When she tried to speak, Bethany snapped, "If your brother can't follow simple standards, maybe Willow Creek isn't right for your family." I clenched my fists around the phone. Overseas, I'd faced drug lords and insurgents. None made my blood boil like that smug suburban tyrant. The fines doubled. Then came threats of a property lien. Maya found pamphlets slid under the door. Anonymous, but clearly from Bethany's clique, claiming military families lowered community value. That night, Maya whispered, "Tank, it's not just us. The Johnsons got cited for their son's motorcycle. The Washingtons, Navy, were fined for improper decorations. She's targeting anyone in uniform." Grandma's voice echoed in my memory. "Fight the right way." So I did. I contacted JAG, the Judge Advocate General, and my federal task force supervisor. They advised patience. "Document everything," Captain Chun said. "Let her hang herself with paperwork." I told Maya, "Keep records, stay calm, no retaliation." But calm doesn't stop bullies, it just gives them room to escalate. The morning after that call, Maya sent photos of Grandma's dusty storage boxes labeled HOA Records 1987 to 1995. Inside, buried between brittle newsletters, she found the smoking gun, the original bylaws. Section 14B, Government, Emergency Service, and military vehicles are exempt from community parking restrictions. Bethany wasn't enforcing the rules. She was inventing them. Maya scanned every page, highlighting signatures from founding members and Grandma's neat cursive initials. I forwarded the files to Captain Chun, who read them twice before muttering, "Fabricated covenants." That's fraud and civil rights interference. She looped in a JAG contact, Staff Sergeant Pat Williams, whose calm professionalism carried the quiet fury of a lawyer who eats bullies for breakfast. Rodriguez, she said, this isn't an HOA issue anymore. It's potential federal harassment of a deployed service member. We'll document and escalate. 2 days later, I learned Bethany's husband, Carl Wright, chaired the city's zoning committee. Every HOA project funneled through his office for review fees. On paper, it looked routine. In reality, they'd turned Willow Creek into a family racket. Williams filed a notice under the Service Members Civil Relief Act, freezing fines until my return. Bethany ignored it. Instead, she sent a glossy letter titled Emergency Community Compliance Order, threatening to remove the abandoned commercial vehicle. That phrase, abandoned commercial vehicle, was deliberate legal camouflage. She thought federal property didn't count as military if she renamed it. But my Jeep carried encrypted radios, GPS trackers, and evidence lockers. Moving it without clearance was a federal offense. The pattern was clear: fabricate violations, push families until they sold, and feed discounted homes into Carl's development deals. Grandma had hinted years ago that Bethany eyes everyone's land. Now I understood. I told Captain Chun, when I'm stateside, I want this by the book. She replied, then start the book today. Within a week, Maya noticed a white SUV crawling past the driveway every hour. Exec safe security, logos peeling, windows tinted. 2 guards with clipboards took photos of my Jeep like paparazzi at a crime scene. Maya confronted them. One smirked. Routine compliance patrol. She recorded everything and texted me the footage. Seeing those strangers circling Grandma's porch lit something cold inside me. I logged into the Jeep's onboard system through the federal portal, Standard Task Force Tech. Cameras, motion sensors, GPS, all operational. That night, the system pinged. Unauthorized presence detected. 2214 HRS. Infrared footage showed Bethany herself, flashlight in hand, measuring the Jeep's distance from the curb, snapping photos of the interior, even tugging the door handle. The image froze on her face, eyes narrowed, clipboard raised like a warrant. I forwarded the clip to Captain Chun. Her reply came in 2 words. Got her. The next morning, Bethany unleashed psychological warfare. She emailed every resident claiming a potential criminal investigation involving a suspicious government vehicle. Gossip spread like gasoline. Neighbors avoided Maya at the mailbox. Kids whispered that her brother was under surveillance. I called Maya. They're isolating you. Hold the line. But Bethany wasn't done. She taped a final notice to the door. Vehicle will be towed within 24 hours to maintain community safety. Signed with that looping, arrogant signature. I stared at the image on my phone and felt a shift. No more patience. Grandma's words echoed again. Fight the right way. Fine. I'd fight with federal precision. It happened at dawn on a Tuesday. The sky still gray, sprinklers hissing in rhythm, the smell of wet grass thick in the air. Maya's call jolted me awake in the barracks. Tank! She's here. She brought a tow truck. Through the Jeep's live feed camera, I saw it all in grainy clarity. Bethany in a silk robe and gardening gloves, barking orders at a burly driver. Bolt cutters gleamed in her hands. Clang. The chain snapped. Clang. Another link surrendered. She shouted, remove this eyesore immediately. HOA authority supersedes private nonsense. The driver hesitated. Ma'am, that's got government decals. Abandoned property, she snapped. I have full authorization. Behind her, Maya's trembling voice. That's federal equipment. You can't. Bethany turned, sneering. Tell your soldier brother rules apply to him too. When the final link broke, a silent alarm triggered. I watched the dash lights flicker. Security breach, federal alert activated. Within 60 seconds, GPS pings hit Homeland Security servers across 3 states. The driver noticed the sudden glow from the console. Lady, I'm not touching that. He dropped the tow cable and bolted to his truck. Bethany screamed, Coward! I'll move it myself. She grabbed the chain remnants like trophies. Maya's voice shook through my earpiece. She locked the community gate behind her. No one can get in or out. Good, I said. That means the marshals will trap her inside. I called Captain Chun on emergency protocol. Targets cutting through federal equipment right now. Understood, she answered. We're dispatching units. Back on camera. Bethany paced beside the jeep, phone pressed to her ear, ranting about illegal military occupation. Her reflection glinted off the windshield, half mad with power. The first siren wailed in the distance. She froze, scanning the street like prey spotting hunters. Maya whispered, "They're here." Through the feed, flashing blue and red lights flooded Willow Creek's beige perfection. Federal marshals rolled in, weapons low but ready. Neighbors peeked through blinds as suburbia met justice. Marshal Torres stepped from her vehicle. "Ma'am, step away from the jeep." Bethany lifted her chin. "This is private HOA property. You have no jurisdiction." Torres' tone hardened. "You just committed theft of federal law enforcement property. That's 8 felonies in under 5 minutes." Bethany's expression cracked. I was enforcing rules." The marshals moved in. Cameras from Maya's porch captured every second. The bolt cutters on the pavement, the trembling hands, the moment entitlement met consequence. I watched from thousands of miles away, heart pounding with equal parts rage and relief. She'd finally cut more than a lock. She'd severed her illusion of power. The moment the marshals cuffed Bethany, Willow Creek erupted. Curtains fluttered, cameras flashed, and neighbors spilled into the street like witnesses to a sunrise they'd waited years to see. For once, silence wasn't fear. It was disbelief. Marshal Torres inspected the bolt cutters, bagged them, then turned to Maya. "Ma'am, are you the property custodian?" "Yes, agent." "Then please note, your brother's equipment is now under federal protection." Within minutes, crime scene tape wound across the driveway. I watched live through the Jeep feed as agents photographed everything, from Bethany's shattered lock to her manicured footprints in the dew. Then came the neighborhood's awakening. Mrs. Patel, the quiet widow across the street, brought coffee for the marshals. Mr. Henderson, Vietnam vet, cane in one hand, flag in the other, stood guard beside Maya. "No one touches that Jeep again," he barked. News vans arrived before sunrise. The headline wrote itself, "HOA president arrested for stealing federal vehicle." Bethany tried to spin it, claiming misunderstanding, but the footage told another story, her shouting about supremacy, waving the chain like a trophy. The same chain that triggered her downfall. Captain Chun called me at noon. "Rodriguez, the video went viral. Congress is watching." I exhaled. "Then we finish it." By evening, Willow Creek had transformed. Neighbors who'd hidden from Bethany's wrath now gathered on Grandma's lawn. They held candles, flags, and cups of lukewarm courage. Maya addressed them, voice steady. "We stood alone too long. Not anymore." For the first time, community meant something real. 2 days later, I landed stateside. The air tasted like jet fuel and unfinished justice. Federal HQ briefed me before I reached home. Bethany's arrest had cracked open an empire of suburban corruption. Financial analysts traced HOA accounts into shell corporations managed by Carl Wright. Over $180,000 diverted to a front company called Kensington Urban Holdings, funded through community beautification projects that never existed. When agents raided Carl's city council office, they found development contracts listing homes not yet for sale, including Grandma Rose's. Maya sat at Grandma's kitchen table surrounded by evidence. Receipts, falsified minutes, and digital backups she'd meticulously cataloged. My little sister had turned into a forensic weapon. "They were forcing out veterans and widows," she said, sliding me a folder. "Selling properties cheap, then flipping them to developers. The fines were just pressure tactics." Captain Chun arrived with Assistant U.S. Attorney Elena Martinez, a prosecutor with a reputation for dismantling criminal enterprises. She laid out the charges like dominoes. Mail fraud, wire fraud, civil rights conspiracy, obstruction, and theft of government property. Bethany's recorded outburst, "The HOA is above the government," would headline the indictment. Carl tried damage control, but his colleagues turned faster than weather vanes in a storm. Bank statements proved he'd laundered community funds through out-of-state accounts. When the FBI subpoenaed the HOA server, they uncovered a spreadsheet labeled Target List. 42 families, every one military, elderly, or minority. Next to each name, projected sale price. Bethany's arrogance had exposed something bigger than neighborhood tyranny. It was organized discrimination for profit. Federal court 3 months later. Cameras lined the hallway, reporters whispering, "HOA RICO case." Bethany entered in a beige suit instead of her usual white pearls, trying to look humble. It didn't work. Judge Morales wasted no time. "Mrs. Wright, your actions constituted theft of federal law enforcement property, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy against citizens you were sworn to serve." The prosecution played the footage. Her bolt cutters, her screams, my Jeep's flashing alert lights. Each frame slammed the coffin lid tighter. Elena Martinez outlined the financial crimes: falsified budgets, shell payments, fake maintenance contracts. I sat behind her, jaw clenched, watching Bethany's empire dissolve in real time. When it was my turn to testify, I stood tall. "She didn't just cut a lock," I said. "She cut through the safety of every family who trusted her authority." The gallery murmured. Bethany's attorney pleaded for leniency. A misunderstanding driven by passion for community standards. The judge's gavel cracked. Passion is no defense for criminal enterprise. Verdict: guilty on all counts. Sentence: 8 years federal prison, no parole. Restitution: $600,000 to affected families. Carl received 6 years and lifetime disqualification from public office. As marshals led them away, Bethany turned once, eyes wide with disbelief. For the first time, the self-proclaimed Queen of Willow Creek understood what real authority looked like. Months later, I stood on Grandma Rose's porch at sunrise. The same driveway, same Jeep, only now, it bore a small plaque on the dashboard. Case number 4821, Willow Creek Operation. Maya walked beside me, clipboard in hand. She'd been unanimously elected the new HOA president, the first act of a community reborn. Her first order of business: the Willow Creek Military Family Protection Charter, guaranteeing service members immunity from local harassment. Every neighbor signed it. The Wright's former mansion, seized through asset forfeiture, was converted into Rosa Memorial Park. Playground, flagpole, garden beds bursting with life. The plaque read, "Freedom flourishes where courage stands." During the dedication, Mrs. Patel handed me a folded flag. "Your grandmother would be proud," she said softly. I unfolded it under the morning light, watching the stars ripple above houses finally free from fear. That evening, news anchors called our case the precedent that changed HOA law. Congress passed the Rodriguez Act, mandating transparency for community associations and federal oversight when service families face discrimination. Maya's inbox filled with thank you letters from veterans nationwide. She started a nonprofit, the Rosa Foundation, offering legal aid to families bullied by local boards. Sometimes, when I park my Jeep by the curb, I still hear that faint metallic clang in my memory, the sound of a lock breaking. Only now, it reminds me that justice doesn't start with anger. It starts with evidence, courage, and the will to stand up the right way. I look up at the flag, smile, and whisper, "We did it, Abuela. We fought the right fight."